Hi, and welcome to this lecture on condition statements. In this lecture, we're going to learn about what condition statements are, how to use them, and some common errors that you might slip into. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the script editor and get started. In your viewport, press and hold the spacebar and select panels. Okay, click and hold. Okay, scroll down to panel and then fifth up script editor. So we can also clear out our history at the top. Okay, but we need to make sure as well that we have line numbers and errors ticked on and show stack trace ticked on. What are condition statements? So condition statements in Python are used to make decisions in code based on certain conditions, expressions, or criteria. They allow us to specify different paths of execution for our code, depending on whether a given condition is true or false. So there are two main condition statements in Python. We've got if statements and if-else statements. Okay, an if statement is used to execute a block of code if a condition is true, and with the if-else, and else runs whenever the if statement is not passed. So let's have a little look at how to use them, okay, with some examples. So let's say that we have an age of someone that's been passed, okay? The age is 25. We're going to highlight, hold down Control and press Enter. So age is now assigned with the integer 25. And we are going to check with a condition statement, okay? We're going to check if the expression age, okay, is true or false. If the age is greater than or equal to 18, okay, this expression gives us true. And now this if statement, okay, will give us a very good statement to check whether the variable age is greater than or equal to 18. If it is, we will print the message, okay, saying that the person is old enough to vote. Yay. Okay, you're old enough to vote. Great. Okay, now let's put in a little bit more information and just add in, okay, else. So feel so sad. All younger people, it should be far younger voting age. Okay, all right, so age 25. All right, let's go with a little bit lower here. Let's go 17. Okay, you are not old enough to vote. All right, okay, cool. So now we've got our condition statement, okay, with a condition if false as well. Okay, so in this example, let's walk through it. Okay, we're using the if-else statement to check whether the variable age is greater than or equal to 18. And if it is, we will print the message, you are old else to vote. Okay, but if it's not, okay, we will print the message that's saying you are not old enough to vote. Okay, so we can also use an else-if statement. Okay, now these are awesome. Okay, kind of like case statements in other languages, but we don't have those in Python, so we can use if-else statements. Okay, so or else-if, sorry. So essentially, we can now put another bit of information in. So we can go if age is, let's go with less than 25. Let's change some of this around. We'll go with, okay. Yeah, let's give let's change it. Yeah, let's do this. Cool. So here we go. I could always put the not in the wrong place, couldn't I? Not old enough to vote. Okay. To vote. Not hire a car. Let's say we're making a really sarcastic program just to really annoy people and remind them of the things they can't do when they're under 25, or things they might be able to do if they pay thousands of pounds on insurance. Okay, so we've got a bit more information now here. Okay, we've got a little check going on. So in this example, we're using the else if statement to check whether the person is old enough to rent a car, in addition to being old enough to vote. So the elif statements allow us to specifically or to specify additional conditions to check after the initial statement. So we could add, we could add 10 of these, 20 of these if you needed to. I suggest not for readability's case, but you can add like 3 or 4 of these generally, or as many as you need to get the logic of what you're doing. So if you want to check if a controller has certain parameters, you can check if that controller is within a list or follows the parameters that you need before you do certain things. Obviously, you're going to need more of these else if statements in certain scenarios than you will. Maybe at some points you might just need an if statement most of the time, and then at other times you might need an elif statement. I'd probably suggest that maybe if you're using a lot of these, you might want to break the code up and try to break the functionality up though. Okay, it means that you've got quite a lot happening in one place. You might need to break the functionality down into smaller chunks somewhere. Okay, so we can also do this in shorthand a little bit. So we could go, okay, if we've just got an if statement, we could do this. We could just put everything on one line. Again, not really PEP 8 or not really good with PEP 8, but you are allowed to do this. Okay, you are not old enough to vote. All right, so it still runs, it's still fine. You can still run another function after, okay. Okay, it's not going to give you an error, an indentation error or anything, because you are just doing it once here, okay. Now this is allowed. Obviously you cannot do this. You can go print and then indent and print here, because now you're going to get an indentation error, because you've already kind of said, I'm going to do this all on one line, but you're not. You're now try to indent. You've tried to do something on the second line. But we can also do an if statement with a couple of outputs on one line. So we can do print hello. So if age is over 18, else print, what should we do? You cannot, let's keep it the vote, otherwise it sounds dodgy. Okay, you cannot vote. We will make this lower than 18. We'll make this, you can vote. Okay, so here we've got everything on one line, and we have got our condition statement right in the middle that says basically everything to the left. So we've gone print, you cannot vote if your age is lower than 18. Okay, so you will print this if on this side it's true, but else if this is not true, then you'll do this. Okay, so let's run this. You cannot vote. Okay, that sucks. It just, oh God, this just feels like I'm hammering in some really harsh truths to any of you people out there that are 17. And I apologize to that in advance, because sadly, we do not get the politicians we deserve. Okay. All right, so let's move on a little bit. So you can also have multiple condition statements in one line like this. This is also known as a ternary operator, or a conditional expression. I'd probably advise against doing too many because, again, for readability. Let's try and get these a bit smaller so we can just fit everything in. That's not going to be. So let's go with you are 18. So let's go with. Oh, you are under. Okay, so bit too much to fit in here. So you see, this is why, again, you're going to want to essentially put in either a variable, okay, which is holding the string information, or you're going to hopefully be using quite snappy expressions and not doing such large amounts of code, because we're definitely over the PEP8 convention here. I think it was like 78, 79 characters, which is just stating essentially that in Python best practices, you should not really have lines this long, because again, reading through this as somebody coming in, looking at this first time, you'd be like, okay, print you're over 18, if age is 8, if age equals to 18, if using the equality operator, else, okay, you are under 18, okay, if we're under, if age is less than 18, else, oh, you're over 18. And it's just, there's a lot going on here. We're on one line, which again is just a little bit harder to look at, but okay, that's a conditional expression. So let's look at now an example with the AND, okay, operator. So car age is 15. So if our car age is under 20 and car age equals 0, we just go with both conditions are true. Okay, well, we've not met this condition. So car age is 15, so it's met one condition, but it's not met the condition of being, okay, 0, being at 0, or I don't know, new, I suppose that would be essentially for car age. So it won't pass. But if we change this to an OR, the condition is true. There we go. Okay, and you see, I just want to try and get us in best practices kind of method, that we don't just start fixing code, but not then changing everything else. Remember, best practices state, leave everywhere better than you, well, leave the code in a better state than you found it. Okay, so even if it's a bit annoying, just update the next bit of code. So here we've met the condition now. Okay, car age is under 20. Okay, car age is not equal to 0, so we're getting false here. It is not, this is not meeting the equality standard set by this operator, but because we have an OR, it's checking if this is true or this is true, and we do have a true. Okay, so now let's look at this. Okay, and use another statement. So let's say our car age is 25. So if the age is under 18, okay, or less than 18 years old, or over 65, or equal to 65, you qualify for a special discount, or sorry, you do not qualify for a special discount. Sorry, you do not qualify for a special discount. We're in the area right in between here, so we're above 18, so this isn't passing. Okay, and we are not equal to or over 65, so we have gone to the if statement, or sorry, to the else statement, okay, because this is false. So we've gone else, sorry, you do not qualify for a special discount. Okay, so let's have another one using our not. Okay. So, okay. Using our logical operators, let's try and use this example. We've got raining, okay, equals true. But we want to say, if it's not raining, it is not raining. Okay, let's try and look at it this way again. We've got to try and get used to this reading out with the logic. So raining, okay, is it true or false? If it's not false, okay, then it will say it is raining. Okay, all right. So it is raining. It's true. Okay, so this is true, and now we put the not in front of it. We've reversed the meaning, and now we get false. So it is not raining. Okay, so we've got true. We flip the true, get a false. Okay, so in this example, the not operator is used to negate the value of the raining variable. The not operator evaluates true, and the if condition is false. Okay, if it is false, then it prints it is not raining. Otherwise, it prints it is raining. Sorry, I'm confusing myself with what I said there, but yeah, okay, that's an example of the not. So let's look at maybe some nested examples now. Okay, so we've got x equals 20, y equals 10, and z equals 5. So now we've got some nested logic here. We've got one if statement, and then we've got, okay, a nested if statement within this block. So we've got our block, okay, with an if statement. So we've now indented a further 4. So we've got 4, and then 4. We're going to keep on it where essentially everything is going to indent, okay, this until, okay, we meet, until we've got the logic that we require, okay. If we did, if x, again, then here is lower than 23, then we could say, actually, then print this. So we can continue nesting as far as we like through these, but we'll just do this example here. So let's see what we get. So this first condition, okay, is met. X is greater than y, okay, at 10. So we have met the first condition to print here that the x is greater than y. And now we've gone is x greater than z, and we have gone for x is also greater than z. Okay, it did not go over here to the else because x would say x is not greater than z, but we've got our logic correct, and therefore we were getting the correct prints. Okay, so yeah, that's nested statements. Okay, very straightforward. We've just got to make sure that you look at this in the order it is written. Okay, that's, you're evaluating this code in the order you're writing it, and that's the way you've got to make sure that you look at this. Okay, and every time you have another if statement, you're always indenting. So those are the two main points to take away from that. All right, now let's look at a very important section, common errors. So, okay, common errors that can occur when starting out. Okay, we've got syntax errors. Let's get all these on the screen for us. Just miss one out, of course, couldn't I? Here we go. And we've got some logical errors as well here. Let's put that to 4. Okay, I'll change it for your notes as well for when you want to download these after. Okay, but syntax errors. So what do we mean by this? Again, very easy to get syntax errors in statements that are incorrect. Okay, for example, forgetting to put a colon after an if statement. I mean, I still do that, especially when I'm tired, a little bit like tonight. It's very easy to write code and just forget to put a colon or put a semicolon if you're accidentally not holding the shift bar enough, and it'll just again give you a failure of that block of code. Okay, so you'll get a syntax error. Okay, very easy to fix. You just need to read through your code again. Indentation errors, okay, as we did with the nested if statements there. Okay, we've got to make sure that we have consistent, okay, indentations. The second print is down here. Okay, it will still run, but okay, we do, okay, because we've got a 2, sorry, I should explain that. So because we've got a block here which is stating we need a new indentation, this indentation for this block can be 2, it can be off from the one before. Again, it shouldn't be because it should be in line with the code you've got before, so that's more of a PEP issue and a logical issue for yourself. So, but okay, you won't get an error until you do this. Okay, let's say you put this at 2. Okay, you've now stated that all of these indents should be in 2 with this block of code here, although this if statement is a further 2 in. So we will now get an indentation error. Okay, so very easy to do that. Make sure that your blocks of code are indented consistently. All of the blocks within this section should be lining up at 4, okay? And then for the next block, another 4, okay? For all of those blocks, not it doesn't matter if you've got a different if statement or whatever's going on. Okay, if x is, or something else is going on, you want to just write this out for some reason instead of just doing the else. Okay, you should make sure that this indentation is the same as the indentation before for readability. Okay. So unintended code execution. Now, what does this mean? These errors occur when code executes unintentionally, often due to the incorrect nesting of the control flow statement. So what do we mean here? So if we go back to our example, you might want this block of code. Let's say we had two things being printed. And you might want both of these prints. Let's say we had some other information in here, okay, that we only wanted to print out in the case that x was less than z. If you accidentally, okay, put that within the indentation 4 here, this is actually going to run within this block of code. It'll always execute after x is higher than y. If you only want it to execute if x is higher than y and x is less than z, then you've got to make sure that you have it indented in the same block of code here. Okay, that's what that means essentially. Okay, and logical errors. Again, harder to spot. This is, you might put x is greater than z here. Okay, this is actually correct. Well, that's not what you're checking for here. You're checking here if x is greater than y. Now, this might be true in like the next 10, 15 scenarios that you run this code in. But that will be a coincidence, and you're actually going to get quite a few, and that will just annoy people in the future when they run into the scenario of wanting to know what x's relation to y is. So you need to make sure that with your condition, if you're going to put give feedback to the user after it, you need to make sure that your feedback is consistent with the output of the code. Okay, so x is higher than y, so x is greater than, not z, y. Okay, that's a logical error again. There's going to be no error actually running Maya, but this will be an error of the logic within the program. Okay, awesome. So in this video, we have learned about condition statements. Again, pretty much one of the most important parts of our code. Okay, we've learned about how to use them and some common errors that you could fall into with them. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on our next video.